morning, good afternoon, good evening, and happy buy round to all those who celebrate. This is the Mad Monday podcast brought to you, as always, by the legends at 4 and 20 Pies. My name is Tino Whaasua Manaia, and I am joined this week by Hurley Farnworth from the Greater Bay of Plenty area. Good morning, Hurley. How are you, mate?
Well, look, I've had better weekends, I'll be honest, Manaia. I think we can all agree that that was an absolute massacre in Brisbane in the weekend.
Yeah, and I mean, on field, obviously, the score not great, but just the way it happened, the amount of injuries. So we're recording this Tuesday morning. I see that the Herald's reporting it's confirmed ACL for Luke Metcalf. The ACL, I was saying this earlier this week, and by earlier this week, I mean yesterday. The ACL is always they know on the field. They send them the scans. They tell the media, hey, can you just let us get a scan away? The player knows straight away. You can kind of tell. I watched Braden Ennort, dear friend of the show, do his in Dunedin, and he threw his mouthguard the width of the field in frustration. And I've never seen a mouthguard fly that far, and it's like, yep, you know straight away. And I think Metcalf knew too. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah, so if you missed it, Brendan Piakura from the Broncos, he, like a fully regulation tackle, it has been cleared by the judiciary, but basically cuts Luke Metcalf in half. I thought it was going to be ribs. It was definitely not ribs. That's where the tackle was. It was in his midriff, hit him on the side, but I guess kind of got the boot stuck in the ground, wrenched the knee one way that knees are not supposed to go. And, yep, that is the season for arguably the Dally M leader and playmaker for the Warriors.
It's so heartbreaking because he did nothing wrong, you know what I mean? He didn't even really get himself in a bad position. It was just a planted foot. Same as Mitch Barnett, innocuous sort of play. And then that's him done for a year of, you know, if you're an NRL player, you only get, 10 years tops in the NRL? And to have one taken away is heartbreaking, particularly the way we've been going this year. That's gutting.
Yeah, so look, I've been trying to contextualise this and feel better about it because there's also, if you've missed it, CNK, also a knee injury. I don't think there's been a definitive amount of weeks, but look, I've got a self-taught medical degree based on video evidence that, you know, from my couch. I'm going to say 6 weeks.
Okay.
For CNK. You're right. Yeah, write that down. So that's my prognosis is 6 weeks. We do have a bye around this round, so that's 5 weeks. Now, look, we've also lost Mitch Barnett. So the Penrith Panthers have won 4 titles in a row. They have had significant amount of time out of those seasons without Nathan Cleary, right, without their playmaker, and still gone on to win the competition. Have they gone on to win the competition without Nathan Cleary, James Fisher-Harris, and Dylan Edwards at the same time? Possibly not.
Not thus far.
No. So it is definitely a challenge. But for all those people, including people on this particular podcast, including people like me who said, why are we carrying so many halves? Why have we got Tamati Martin warming the bench? Why did we buy Tanner Boyd when he's not played a first grade game? Suddenly does not look so silly, does it?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I always say this whenever we interview players, particularly players that are trying to fight for a spot on the squad. We've been doing this with second rowers for a couple of years. They, as Joe Jury walks past with 3 dildos, players don't see it that way. They know that it is a long season, and these are not, like, yeah, you're vying for position right now. Anything could happen. Anyone could be out. And now that's exactly what's happened. And you're right. It's not quite an embarrassment of riches. I'm not embarrassed about the riches we have.
No, neither. I'm not embarrassed.
Not even really ashamed.
No.
I don't even know how proud I am of them. But
no, I'm not even sheepish about the riches.
No. But we do have them. And they are there. And that you're right. There's one of the storylines is, God, is Tamati Martin going to leave mid-season because he can't get any run? I wonder, though, who do you think comes into the halves now? Do you think it's Tamati or Tanner? I suppose by the time you're listening to this podcast, the team will have been named, but there's still always a bit of room for jiggery-pokery.
I think they'll probably start him in that first game back and put Tanner Boyd into the 14 because he can play hooker as well. So, I think that would be the the smart thing to do rather than start a guy that has not played a first grade game all year. There is also the name that we were bandying around the name Cleary before. We do have a Cleary in our squad. Yeah. Also never played a first grade game, but for all reports, doing pretty well in New South Wales Cup.
I've heard that, but I also did see him at the airport when we went to Magic Round. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. He is 19 years old. That's a child.
He is. We also have a 19-year-old in the back row who's doing pretty well, in Leka Halasema. But yeah, I know, 19-year-old playmaker is it's a big responsibility, even if you do have that pedigree. So yeah, I think safe bet is on Timoti Martin to slot straight into 7. He played really well there last year. I mean, all our best games was him at 7, replacing Sean Johnson, who probably didn't have his best year in his last year. Yeah, I think he'd admit that himself.
So then the other thing, and this is the first thing that came up when my dad called me almost immediately after the injury, does RTS go back to fullback? Because when he played there for the last sort of 20 minutes of that game, I don't know, I was having flashbacks. It felt right to me.
Yeah, so we've also got a wing problem. And in our group chat, I was fairly quiet during this game just because I didn't have good feelings. The first thing I said after the game was, I can't believe the Warriors have to buy a winger. Like usually, wingers would just
fall off trees.
Turn up at the ground. They slap on a jersey and suddenly they're one of the best wingers in the competition. We just have wingers for all of Auckland.
Yeah.
And now, like Ed Cossey, unfortunately, it just hasn't made the step up to first grade. He does tend to just overthink it or something. Drops the ball at key moments. I think even in this game, like there was a comeback being mounted. He holds that pass and goes over. That we might be talking about a very different result.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. It's because we're not good enough to let a try go wanting just because we mistimed our run. You know what I mean? Like getting taken out by a tackle, whatever, getting disrupted while we're executing. Yes. But just to have one go sailing over the sideline, you're like, yeah, I don't know if we can afford that.
He seems to dominate in reserve grade, but he's just never made the step up. So, look, fortunately, we do have Tane Tuaupiki in our to come in. I believe he's fit. So I personally would put him on the wing and put Roger back to fullback while Chance is out.
I would too. What do you think Webby would do?
I feel like he won't do that.
Yeah, I feel like he's going to put Tane at fullback, leave Roger on the wing because that's where he's been playing him.
It just Tane, he is small. Like he's so skillful. He's a great positional player, but he is small. I feel like they roll over the top of him if he is the last line of defence, whereas Roger's just got that little bit more stock about him.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I just think we all fans have just watched these last 2 years, been like, we've got the 2018 Dally M Player of the Year.
I know. And
he won that playing fullback. I mean, that whole period up until then, he was Dally M Winger of the Year in like the first couple of seasons that he was playing for the Roosters there. Then he comes over here. I honestly reckon he was the best fullback up there with any of them. Better than Tedesco.
Yeah.
There's another common topic of conversation between me and my father. But for some reason, the Aussie media loved him, so he always got much maligned. But yeah, I'd love to see him fullback. I don't think Webby goes there. So then what's the prognosis for the rest of the season? So he's out. Chance it is for a few weeks. That's Metcalf done. We then go Tigers, Knights, Titans after the bye, which to me was the poo-poo.
It couldn't be better, could it?
Yeah, that's right. It's the poo-poo platter of teams. But now when you look at the outs that we've got, I don't know. I don't feel nearly as confident.
No, definitely not confident. But I think, a bye week and then ease us in with some poo-poo platter. I think, you couldn't ask for better. Look, I want to move on slightly to something that we've not needed to do this year, and that's talk about the referees. Now, Webby comes down to the sideline a la Ricky Stewart at half-time on the weekend. I haven't seen him out of the box, I don't think, this year.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
I thought when I saw that, I was like, this is either awesome or awful. You know? This goes one of two ways.
Yeah, I'm not sure either which one it is, but I don't know if he was there keeping an eye on the refs or because we were 18 points down, he thought it might inspire the boys. And it did. Like, there was definitely a comeback there. We definitely played a better second half, much better than the first half. We just didn't fire a shot. I can't believe in that first half we get out-muscled by the Brisbane Broncos. Yeah. Like, they were just a better, more physical team.
I think they were, they are rounding into a bit of form. They definitely have more on attack. You know, like we're talking about our wing stocks and how, dire that is. They have Sal and Cobbo on a salary.
Yeah.
Basically, we're just like, we'll go on Karapani and, we'll figure it out. We would never do that. We can't afford to do that kind of shit.
Yeah, and somehow they've turned Shibasaki into some sort of amazing, tackle-busting player. Like, he was just the ultimate journeyman and he's having the best season of his life.
Yeah. I just think, and I saw, I haven't heard that he's been fined for it, but I saw Webby's comments about the refs after the game. That's not the kind of stuff you get fined for. He was saying like, the guy was offside and I think they missed it. It's more like when you come out and you go, the refs are shit, that guy should be embarrassed. It's a vibe thing. It's if you show them up. Refs don't like being shown up. You know what I mean? They don't mind if you say, I disagreed with that call. It's when you go, that guy's useless. He sucks. He shouldn't be a ref.
Yeah, or if you suggest they're somehow getting a kickback or somehow corrupt in some way. Yeah. I don't think he did that. He chose his words pretty carefully. I don't know that it was the deciding factor, was those couple of bad calls.
Offsides and things like that, yeah.
There was definitely a forward pass in there that led to a try. It's been
confirmed.
It's been all over Instagram. I've noticed even Broncos fans going, what?
It's funny you say that because we talked to Wade Egan before the game and Ruda asked them a question, how many forward passes are they allowed at Suncorp? It's funny you said that because that's exactly what happened. I just think my last thought on the Warriors is bye week, either because we asked Wade Egan and Monty Betham, what do players do in bye weeks? They said, it's all different. Monty said back in the day they'd get on the piss, but nowadays probably not so much that. I reckon they get the whole team together, go out bush somewhere and just get rat-assed. Like massive mid-season piss-up, blowout, exercise the demons, couple of guitars around a bonfire, blacked out with no cell phone service. That, I reckon, is where they need to go.
I think that's perfect. And Tamari Martin, no, you wouldn't think it to look at him because he's like the prettiest man of all time, but he's a massive pig hunter dude that loves to go bush. So he'll know the best spots. He'll know where there's absolutely no cell phone coverage, and he'll probably, get his Bowie knife and kill a feed for them all.
Yes, bring a
Obelix
pig.
style.
Spit roast a pig. Get Adam Pompey on the guitar. I reckon we will just, that's what we need. We need a real kumbaya, exercise a few demons, come back and get back on with it. Sorry, I know I said that was my last thing, but the one other thing I would say is there are other teams that have got a lot of outs, and one of those teams is the Dolphins, who's got like 5 or 6 people out, and they keep charging. They got Saifidi, Kafusi, all those like big name players that they brought in. They're all out, and they're still going all right. So that's the blueprint.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it last year. We had mid-season kind of injuries, and that was when we played our best, albeit the bar was not high last year.
No. Anywho,
that's my hope. That's my hope. I think, look, we're a scrappy team, and I think we'll scrap hard.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and pour over the State of Origin team list for Game 3. Welcome back to the Export Beer Garden studio for the Mad Monday podcast. We got your chance to win flights for 2 accommodation tickets to a Warriors home game plus $500 spending money with the Mad Monday Try and Pie Fly-Off. Text PIE to 32360 to enter. All thanks to 4 and 20 Pies, the ultimate fan food. Even if you live in Auckland, I know the flights are included in this. It's so hard to get tickets to Warriors games at the moment because they're selling out so early. It's worth entering and then driving off to another town and then flying back up to Auckland just as a roundabout way of getting the tickets. Both teams have been named for State of Origin Game 3. It's about a week away at the moment, but it's still interesting to go through them. You touched on it before, but I think the biggest naming surprise for everyone has been Gehamet Shibasaki, the standout centre for the Broncos that's in everyone's SuperCoach team this year. I don't think anyone really saw it coming, but what do you make of it?
Why is he never on SuperCoach team this year? Because he was cheap.
Yeah,
and he starts in a relatively good team, so that's why. The New South Wales side looks very settled. Like, is there any changes at all?
No. As I look down, there are not.
That was a team that did lose the last game, although, arguably Queensland had a 14th man on the field with a whistle. Up against it again is the scrappers from Queensland. Hamiso Tabuai Fido plays his third different position in one series. So he's played on the wing and the centres and now goes to fullback, which makes way for, Robert Toya and Gehamat Shibasaki, who, as a centre pairing, there's not a lot of Origin games there.
No, I think, how old's our man Toya? He's like 19, 20?
Yeah, and was the bolter in the side, but definitely was one of the best in game one. Didn't have a superb game two, but did well enough to stay in.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the only differences between the two teams in terms of ethos is that the Blues team's always named as an all-star team, basically. It's just who's the best players, how do we fit them all on a field? And there'll be players that have never played centre before that are all of a sudden playing centre, players on the wing that are fullbacks for their club, like all that kind of stuff. Whereas it seems to me that the Maroons, they look at it as this is a franchise and we are growing for, the next few years. And so by giving a dude like Toya a nod, then that means, hopefully in 5 years, we've got a bit of a dynasty going on here. Yeah.
Well, speaking of dynasty, am I reading this right? That lining up, starting in the front row will be the 48-year-old Josh Papali'i?
That's right. They're trotting out the corpse of Josh Papali'i for State of Origin 3 decider. I think, so he retired from State of Origin a couple of years ago, which I thought was interesting because it's like...
Interesting.
Yeah, it is because I don't know why. I guess maybe the season's just that brutal that you're like, I'm not going to get through this season if I'm also playing Origin. I think this is going to be his last season in the NRL. At least that's the whispers. So why not? He's got nothing to lose, and they just need a giant corpse in the middle of the park, so that they don't get run through. I mean, Payne Haas has been destroying them, to be fair.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they do need some go ahead. It's wonderful. It's wonderful and mobile as Tino Fa'asomaliawi is. He doesn't have quite the same wrecking ball, mentality as Payne Haas up front. So yeah, Josh Papali'i, he'll play maybe 18 minutes, but they'll be good minutes. I do notice as well, like Trent Loiero, the Melbourne Storm loose forward is down to start ahead of Pat Carrigan. Now, I don't quite understand that move.
Nah, there's been a bit of jiggery-pokery. And I think the other thing, this is what me and Chris did for Game 2. We looked at the Queensland team and said which one of these players would make the New South Wales team. There's not a lot of them.
Yeah, that's good.
And the narrative has been, geez, isn't it amazing these guys are getting a run? If I was a Queensland fan, I'd be like, it's actually a bit worrying that we got 19-year-olds. And
I'm going to do it real quick. I would have Val Holmes.
Over.
I would have Cam Munster.
Over Luai, yeah.
Yeah. I would have, or maybe Harry Grant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably try and get the Hammer in there somewhere. Do you go Hammer? Probably not over Dylan Edwards at fullback. Speaking of an embarrassment of riches, we were before. Like Scott Drinkwater is like one of the best players in the competition.
Yeah,
has an absolute stormer for the Cows, albeit against the Titans in the weekend. He's about the fourth choice fullback for New South Wales.
Yeah. Even on the other side, Hammer's starting. 18th man is Reece Walsh.
Oh, there you go.
So he couldn't get a run behind the Hammer. I think. Obviously he's a little bit beaten up and he's been out with injury this year. But I also think that they're looking at it the way that I looked at the Warriors when we had Reece Walsh. He is a luxury to have, but if you've got a do or die game, I just can't get the image of him getting bowled over the try line like the koala bears that you get at the airport in Australia, and you clip them onto something. That's his defensive strategy when he's the last line of defense. So I can't get that out of my mind. He might win you the game, he might lose you the game, and that's why they've gone with the hammer.
Yeah, I think it's a good call to have the hammer at the back. He needs a bit of room as well. Like, he's a bit of a liability for Queensland in game one because he just needs a step or two. Like, he's quite a big body. Yeah. And he just needs a step or two to get up to full pace.
How do you see this one going? Can you see a world in which the Maroons get up over the Blues?
I mean, as a Queensland fan, I'd love it to be a miraculous win, but I think we all know it's going to be 20 points to 6 to New South Wales and a bit of a disappointment of a game.
Yeah, I think so as well. I'm not going to put any money on that, but I do see a world where Queensland win this one. I just feel like they're at their best when everyone's counting them out.
Yeah, like they did in game 2 for sure.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm counting them out, and that makes me nervous. It's like the banana peel games for the Warriors, the ones they should win, in the back of your mind. Yeah, but they probably won't, though. And that's what I think's going on here. That's why I feel that way. But yeah, I probably won't be touching an outright result on the TAB for this one. Won't be looking at it.
No, neither would I. Too close to call, but I think probably a New South Wales grinded out, fairly boring win.
All right, let's take one more quick break. We'll come back, talk a little bit of SuperCoach, and we'll chuck our TAB hunch on for the week. All right, just before we talk a little bit of SuperCoach, we're going to chuck a hunch on this weekend. Now, this is always tough when the Warriors don't play. We got the bye this weekend. So I reckon we go on a head-to-head market, try and pick an upset. Tell me when you think that there could be an upset here. And bear in mind that there's a lot of players out this weekend.
Yeah.
So the first matchup, Bulldogs versus Broncos. Bulldogs $1.50, Broncos $2.50. Can the Broncos go?
No, they've got too many players out.
Raiders $1.33 over St. George. I didn't mind St. George on the weekend.
Yeah, neither actually. But weirdly, the Raiders don't have a lot of players out.
No, although one, Papali'i.
Well, Josh Papali'i, yeah.
Who had been coming off the bench for them for a lot of the season and is now starting Origin.
Has. Yeah, I mean, Corey Horsburgh can't get a start for the Maroons, so I think, is there anyone else?
No.
I can think of.
North Queensland Cowboys, massive outsiders, $3.50 against the Melbourne Storm. I don't really see anyone beating the Storm for a wee while here.
No, even though the Storm will lose quite a few players. The Cows had a scrappy win against the Titans in the weekend.
Yeah.
They're not a reliable team at the moment.
No. Roosters $1.28 against the West Tigers. When the TAB say bet responsibly, this is what they mean. Do not put money on the West Tigers this year.
Yeah, I had I didn't put money on, but I tipped the Tigers over St. George last weekend. I was so sure.
Nah.
No.
I've seen enough. I have seen enough from that club. There's nothing good going on there.
They can't not win forever, surely.
They probably could, I reckon. If anyone could, it's probably them. There's just all sorts of shit. Every time you hear us, it'll be like another story like, Luai's put something on his Instagram story about old Galvin wanting to fuck off. Then it'll be like, by the way, they also don't have like a home field and they want to get rid of the one that they do have, but then they want something. And then it's just... and then it's like, Taylor May's coming back from being arrested for doing 160 k's past a school in a supercar. He's been linked to the West Tigers. It's like, yeah, of course he fucking... Like, these are the sorts of things that come out of the Tigers. And in fact, I've just talked myself into the Maroons winning because there's a Tiger playing for the Blues, and Jerome Luai.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's how much I think...
Do you think that's it? Do you think the stench of failure sticks to you that much if you're a Tiger?
Fucking A. And the sooner they get rid of, and I mean this in the most loving way, the sooner they let Benji go from that nightmare, the better off they're going to be, and the better off he will be as well, I think. That's how much I hate the Tigers. There's a drive-by on the Tigers.
I mean, they didn't need that Lachlan Galvin thing. Like, they were actually they were going pretty well until that happened, and it's really screwed them over. I think Benji wanted a clean house, and it's backfired.
Yeah. Anytime you've got your best players, anyone that gets good enough in that team, Stefano, Galvin, and then the first thing is get me the fuck out of this club. That's a dangerous sign. The final game of the round, Manly Sea Eagles versus South Sydney Rabbitohs. Now the Rabbitohs, $3.
It's pretty even odds, is it?
No, Rabbitohs $3.25. Massive outsiders against the Eagles.
I think that might be our upset.
I think it is. Now, the only thing is Latrell's out for the Rabbitohs, obviously, for State of O, but I don't trust the Manly Sea Eagles.
No, I'm just looking through here. Did they lose any players to Origin?
Manly, no. None. Man, there was a time, was it last year, where they had both captains of both State of Origin teams.
Yeah.
Plus Turbo. And now, nothing.
I mean, I'll be honest, South Sydney are basically a one-man team. Without Latrell, they really have no spark. But, we've got to put the bet on somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's the best. I think that's the best value as well. So we'll chuck it on there. How did you go on SuperCoach this week?
I finally got a win. I've had a real slump, and I will probably lose this week because I have so many Warriors and Broncos in my team. I was saved this week by Scott Drinkwater. I captained him. I think he got 140 points normally, so doubled that and squeaked a win. Thankfully, I think I'm 10th in our 10th equal in our Mad Monday league.
Little head-to-head side league, yeah. I am going to struggle. This is any of those like full-on SuperCoach stat sheet fellas that you go and watch or listen to and try and give you a bit of advice as to who to buy and sell. And all season they're like, round 18, man, you just need to set your team up for round 18 because you are going to be screwed when that rolls around. And every single time I'm like, I can't wrap my head around that. Here's round 18 and I am screwed. I don't have nearly enough players. I'm like you, I've picked all the Warriors boys up.
Yeah, I mean, there's some really good scorers in there. Obviously, Aaron Clark has just been superb every week. I think he had one of his lower weeks this week with 50-odd points. But, every week has a back row to be up around the 70, 80-point mark. That's gold dust.
Yeah, it is. I just think last week I had to bring in Harry Grant because I didn't have a hooker. Yeah. Now I've got old Sandon Smith who's going to come back in. I'm not stoked about that, but yeah, I just think this week it's one of those awful parts of the season where it's like, do I risk tearing my team apart now just to field a team so that I don't fall off the pace versus keeping players I know, or just like copping a loss this week and going backwards?
It's a hard one as well because particularly in our Mad Monday head-to-head league, like it's quite tight. And so I think I did that one week and just didn't care. And so now my points diff is so bad because I lost so badly. So I think my points diff's about negative 1,500. So even though I'm equal on points with other people, I'm certainly at the bottom of that group.
Yeah, all I know is like whether I try and tear my team apart this week just to make sure I stay afloat this week, or if I just sit pat this week and take a couple of lower scores. Whichever one I do, I know it'll be the wrong move. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? Like if I sit tight and I keep everyone, next week they'll all get injured and then I'll be screwed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm like that with captaining. Like I'll move my captain the week that he gets 160 points and then go back to him the next week when he goes off in the 3rd minute because he's injured.
That's me. And so I presume that both of us then will be captaining Scott Drinkwater again this week.
Of course, absolutely. I've just had a thought. I think Tino Fa'asuamaleaui would make the New South Wales side ahead of Max King.
Yeah, I do too.
So there's about 4.
Max
when
King.
You think, I guess it's what we're doing essentially here is picking an Australian team, right? Yeah. So there's probably 4 or 5 Queenslanders in that team.
Yeah. Max King is for, and I haven't come up with a name for it yet. I need to come up with it. But he's suffering from Rocco Berry syndrome, where there's nothing physically that differentiates him from the rest of the team. And, and that's why you don't have a great read on how good or bad he is, because he's just a generic looking guy.
So what does he need? He needs to shave his head,
that's
or
right.
Do you know what? We don't have a white guy with dreadlocks.
White guy dreads, great move for Max King.
Yeah.
White guy dreads, get down.
It might take a couple of years to grow them out.
Get down to the gluten-free expo.
Yeah.
Start taking part in some breath workshops. Crypto and ice baths, get some white
Max King sounds like a made-up name anyway.
I'm going to call my son Maximum King.
Yeah.
Brilliant. All right, thanks very much for joining me this morning, Hurley. Enjoy the rest of your week and enjoy your Origin football.
Oh, yeah.
And Australia without rugby league is not Australia.